Today we're going to be talking about power functions and transformations. A family of functions is a group of functions that share one or more similar characteristics, just like you share similar characteristics with your family. The parent function is the simplest function in the family. Here are the parent functions. You must sketch these graphs in your notes. You must also have their general form and their name in your notes. You need to copy all of these graphs. Pause the video as necessary. We have the absolute value, constant, cube root, cubic, exponential, linear, logarithmic, quadratic, and my pages are going every which way. Let me get back to what I was doing. Here we go. Sorry about that. Logarithmic, quadratic, rational, reciprocal, and square roots. When we translate the parent function, that means we move them around. If the h is positive, you move it left. If the h is negative, you move it right. That might be a little confusing because it's a little bit backwards, but it is something you need to remember. If k is positive, you move it up. And if k is negative, you move the graph down. Yes, you do need to copy this table in your notes. Pause the video if necessary. Here we have another table that needs to be in your notes. Again, pause the video if necessary. Here we have the function's name and the form it has. So for absolute value, I have f of x equals the absolute value of x plus or minus h plus or minus k. Notice in each one of these, the h is always within. The h is under the radical, or the h is included in the parentheses. The h is within, the k is without. So the h goes inside and the k goes outside. Pause the video as necessary to copy all of these down. All right, let's try an example. I have g of x equals x squared minus 6. The first thing that I want you to do is tell me the parent function. So I can look at this, and then I look at my table above, and I need to find the one that it looks like. Well, here's an x squared. Here's a square. So I'm going to say it's quadratic. Now I need to decide the transformation. Did it move up? Did it move down? Did it move left? Did it move right? I don't know. I need to figure it out. So I look at my equation. Well, there are no parentheses. And remember I said h's go in parentheses. So there's no h. So it didn't move left or right. But there is a number tacked on to the end. It's a negative 6. Well, what number goes on the outside? Well, that's a k. Well, it's negative. So what happens when k is negative? I look at my table here. It went down. So I'm going to sketch my parent graph. And I can do that using my calculator. So I'm going to open my calculator. And of course, I need to reopen it. Now that I have my calculator on, I go to y equals, and I'm going to type my graph in, my parent function, which is x squared. And I want to see a list of tables. So I'm going to press second, graph, and I'm going to plot some points. I have negative 2, 4. And I have negative 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2, 4. And this is the parent function. That's why I'm dotting it. I now need to graph my new graph. So I'm going to move it. Remember, it went down 6. So I'm going to move each of these dots down 6. So I'm going to start with this one. I'm moving it down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I graph my new graph. And this one is solid because that's my answer. So when you do these problems, I want you to graph the parent function first. And I forgot to answer this. This was down 6. All right, so now I'm moving on. This question says h of x equals the square root of x plus 2 minus 5. So I need to figure out the parent function first. So I look at my options, and it's a square root. So this is a square root. All right, and then I need to figure out what it did. Well, within the square root, I have a positive 2. And remember from previously, if it's within, that means left or right. And if it's positive, it goes left, which is confusing, but that's the way it is. Left 2, because of this. Now I have a negative 5 on the outside. The outside number means up or down, and it's negative, so that means down 5. So now I'm going to graph my parent function first. So I go back to my calculator, y equals, clear out what's in there, and I'm going to graph the square root of x and get some points. I have 0, 0. So 0, 0. And then I have 1, 1. And I have probably not much else that easily fits on my graph. 4, 2. And then I can sketch my graph from here. It looks like that. Now I'm ready to transform my graph. My graph goes left 2 and down 5. So I'm going to move each of these points left 2, down 5. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I connect them. And there you go. You transform that one. Again, I want you to graph the parent function before you graph the new graph. Now the directions here are, I want you to tell me the equation. So first I have an absolute value with a vertical shift down 5 and a horizontal shift right 3. So it tells me my parent function is an absolute value. So that's going to be y equals the square root, whoa, what you doing, Ms. Golden? Y equals the absolute value of x. Now, what goes within the absolute value? Well, that would be a horizontal shift. Horizontal goes inside. So the horizontal shift is right 3. Now remember, it's backwards for horizontal. Right is going to be negative. So far, I have y equals the absolute value of x minus 3. And then I have a vertical shift. Vertical shifts do not show up inside. They are not within. They go on the outside. It's a vertical shift down, Down means negative. Now I move on to linear. Linear is y equals x to start with. All right, well, there's no horizontal shift. It does not give me a horizontal shift. So I'm only paying attention to the vertical shift. It shifts vertically up 5. Now remember, vertical does not go inside parentheses or absolute value symbols or square roots or cubed roots or anything. It just gets added on to the end. It's positive, so it's going to move up. So y equals x plus 5. And lastly, I have the square root. The parent function is y equals the square root of x. I have a vertical shift and a horizontal shift. Let's start with horizontal. Remember, horizontal goes within. It goes under the radical. It's shifting left 7. Well, remember with horizontal, it's a little backwards. So left is going to be positive. So y equals the square root of x plus 7. Now I'm paying attention to vertical shift. Remember, vertical shift goes outside, not under the radical, but on the outside. And it says it goes down 2. Down is negative, so minus 2. So you just learned how to graph and how to come up with the equation yourself. So that will be what you're expected to do. Thank you.